So, Mark, you were the visual effects supervisor on Stranger Things, which was one of the breakout hits of this season. How do you account for the success of this show?
Ooh, right place, right time. I think everybody was ready for something that was based in the 80s, this genre, and something different and new and exciting.
Well, so going off of that, talk a little bit about the work that you did. Because, I mean, the show, like you said, I mean, it's based in the 80s, and it does a really great job of capturing that kind of nostalgic feel for films like, excuse me, or The Thing. At the same time, though, it takes a very modern approach to that. So how did you in your work capture that?
Well, we tried to balance, we went through a lot of the old school techniques of doing a lot of as much as we could practically. We had a guy in the suit like aliens did. We did a lot of special effects. But obviously to do a lot of that work takes time. And, when you're doing television shows, that's one thing we never have enough of. So we were trying to balance the two together. So we were doing as much as we could do practically, and then we'd enhance digitally. And that's what gave us the ability to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. As in, I mean, could you point to a couple of specific examples of things where you used practical effects and then augmented them digitally?
Well, for instance, like when we're in the lab and we're going down the lab and you see the spores floating down, we would do as much as we could practically, but at the same time to try to keep the levels of spores, throughout the show and throughout the season was difficult. So we ended up we'd augment it digitally. So we do a little bit practical and then enhance it or balance it digitally. Our creature started out as a guy in the suit, so we would do cleanup and, you could see the animatronic pieces and things like that. So we cleaned it up. But then we found out its limitations. He couldn't run. He couldn't jump through ceilings or out through walls. So then we end up doing those digitally and matching that to the practical creature.
Is it difficult, I mean, in a situation like that where you're working with a creature, I mean, to have both a guy in a suit, practical and visual effects? I mean, how do you match it so that it looks like it's the same thing?
Well, we digitally scanned our guy in the suit. So, we had a full cyber scan done of the creature and then photographed for all the textures. Then we also, because we were using them in the same environment that we were going to put in our CG creature, we would basically look the two together and match them up.
Okay, I see. And you mentioned, I mean, this being on a TV schedule, this is a very ambitious project. I think people don't realize that, I mean, you're working on sort of a kind of like an indie type movie on a very short, tight schedule. Can you talk a bit about some of the limitations of that and what that gives you creatively?
Well, the funny thing is, I think the only thing that we didn't have was time, obviously, and a huge budget. As far as the quality, we're because it's Netflix, it's a 4K image, so we have the quality that's even higher than most feature films are done, because they're usually done at 2K. So the quality and the level of work we had to do was on par for a feature film. And the way we do the Netflix shows, it's actually like doing a feature film, even longer, because we're doing 8 hours instead of 2 hours or 3 hours. So we got to get very creative in the amount of work and how we pull it off and what can we reuse and what can we fine tune to make it look different and really do something cool.
Now, one of the standout aspects of this show is the upside down, this mysterious world. Can you talk about any part that you had in helping to create that?
Well, when they're walking into the town, we obviously tried to do as much practical set design and work with the vines and the cars and everything that we could do where they are, but then we couldn't do the whole town that way. So we ended up, designing and digitally modifying the town and giving it a fog and trying to cheat some of the things so that it looked really cool and looked different, but also gave scope, made it look a lot bigger than what normally normal television shows would have.
Mhm. Now, one of the qualities about this show that's sort of unique is that, at least in the first season, you're working with the Duffer Brothers and Sean Levy exclusively. Can you talk a bit about what that collaboration was like and what they gave you that helped you in your work?
Well, I think what they gave me was the ability to talk and have ideas. A lot of times you walk in and the ideas are, the director has a very set idea and look that he wants to achieve, and you're just kind of building on that. What was nice with working with them was the ability to help define visual effects sequences with them and come up with ideas and pitch ideas, and and not just them. It was art department, camera, our DP Tim Ives, being able to collaborate and come up with really cool ideas. And going, well, if we just move over here, this could be really cool, and we could spend more money in the background and less in the foreground, because we're going to make it a better shot.
We'll talk a little bit more about how you department heads, cinematographer, production designer, how you guys work together in order to say, okay, this is sort of our game plan and our attack plan.
Well, obviously we have our big meetings where we have our script and we sit with the Duffers and in art department and DPs, all the department heads, and we talk about it. And we'll even rewrite sometimes to make it better and more achievable. Sometimes what's written on a page reads really nice, but to do it in reality is difficult sometimes. So we'll come up with ideas and ways and techniques to give them exactly what they want, and maybe something even more and better. So it's very collaborative, especially on the visual effects these days.
There's a lot of obvious visual effects shots, not obvious because we can tell that they're visual effects, but you know what I mean. There's, I wonder if you could point to some work that you did that people might not even realize are visual effects work.
Well, I mean, when our sheriff comes up to the gate of the military lab, and they look out through the front windshield and they see the lab off in the distance, that wasn't there. We added that. Things like that, when they're outside of the gates and they look through the trees and they see the military lab lit up at night, that was the visual effects. That wasn't there. At the end of, I think it was season 8, the sheriff's driving up to the car and there's snow everywhere. The only thing is we added a little, we had some practical ice snow on the ground, but the house was bare. We put snow on the house and made it snow. Same with the rain. When we go into the house and it's raining, we made it rain. So it was completely dry. And then obviously anything non-period piece that was in the scene, we took out or covered. So there was a lot of work like that, trying to keep it very, very much in the 80s and not let anybody go, oh, wait a minute, that's a 2014 Escort, or something like that.
Right, rooted in the 80s and also very much rooted in a certain reality. I mean, there's a grittiness to this show. There's sort of a blue-collar quality to it. It's very much rooted in the real world. Can you talk about adding those fantastical elements into it? And I mean, how you guys created something that felt consistent within the world you were creating?
Well, a lot of it is in the color timing and then the way Tim Ives shot the episodes. He wanted to give it that very 80s feel. And we knew that obviously in the 80s we shot film. We didn't shoot digital, so we needed to add film grain, coloring, the color correction. There were limitations on what we could do in color correction then, so they tried to blend all that together. Same with on the visual effects side, just the way things were shot. We shot them very much in an 80s style, and tried to keep that look all the way through.
Now, for your work, you were recognized by the Visual Effects Society with a nomination. Can you talk about what that kind of recognition meant for you?
It was exciting. It's exciting. It's funny because I was actually on the VES Awards Committee when we first started the awards committee and back in the day for the Visual Effects Society, and writing up all the parameters of how the awards were getting. So, and basically be nominated by my peers, I think was phenomenal. It was actually a great experience.
Now, are you returning for season 2?
Unfortunately, I'm not on season 2. I'm actually was already set up on the last ship, which we've done. I'm doing the last 2 seasons back to back. So I was already unfortunately stuck on that one and couldn't get over onto the second season of Stranger Things. But well, it's going to be exciting from what I hear.
Well, I hope that whoever they got to replace you can live up to your work. Mark, thank you so much, and congratulations on Stranger Things.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good one.